Moving on to another one of our favorite conferences, we have the Southern Conference with Western Carolina and Samford and Furman. So it was quite the week in the Southern Conference. Western Carolina did take a couple bad losses. Not bad losses, but they took a bad loss to Furman, and then they took a pretty good loss to Samford. But the problem is, the Southern Conference had a chance, like very edge case chance of being a two-bid league this year. That all but has diminished now after Western Carolina's loss to Furman. For those of you that have kept up with our top 25 rankings, we had both Western Carolina and Samford in last week. Samford has been dominating, and I was actually joking with a friend today that was saying like when Purdue drilled Samford, it could actually significantly help their rankings because Samford's trending up to a quad two, quad one win uh, for Purdue, which is crazy because Samford has just drawn their net up the highest it's ever been in program history. So right now, I mean, Samford literally just received AP votes for the first time all year today, alongside Indiana State and McNeese State, who are both all three of those teams we've been preaching about all year long. Samford is the team to beat in the SoCon, and well, Western Carolina did give them a run for their money. They lost 75-71, so it was a really good game coming out. So really not a bad loss for Western Carolina here. You know, you're going to expect the two top teams to beat. You obviously one team has to win, so you can still maintain those chances for a two-bid league. But what happened was Western Carolina went to Furman and took a pretty rough loss. Catamounts shot just 35% in the first half. They trailed by 10 at half. They only had 26 points. It was pretty rough, but you know what? They came around and turned it around, came back at the force in the second half. Game was pretty much going back and forth throughout the remainder of the game. And I turned it on about 8 minutes ago in the second half, and DJ Campbell just hit an absolute dagger of a three with just seconds left to tie the game up at 65 apiece. But then JP Pugs followed up with a dagger of his own, hit a three with the shot clock expiring. Western Carolina had less than a second on the clock. Nothing they could really do about that. So Furman gave the game. So Furman won the game 65-62. It's a great basketball game, but you know, prior to that, Furman's net ranking was just 151. You can't take losses like that, and that's a problem with these mid-major conferences, especially like the smaller to mid-tier ones. You can't afford to mess up. It's the same reason we see James Madison is saying like if James Madison loses the conference despite being ranked for several weeks this year, they won't make the tournament. It's not possible in terms of looking at their schedule and looking at their net rankings and looking at their computer metrics. It's just not physically possible. And Samford, Western Carolina were, again, you know, there was no guarantee that it was even going to happen, but there was at least the dream and the possibility that it was within reach to have a two-bit Southern Conference. I know there's a lot of Southern Conference fans out there who I follow on Twitter and see posts about it all the time. Like, this was going to be the year to try to do it, but taking a loss to Furman when, I mean, yeah, Furman's historically been a pretty good program, but I think this year they're down. You know, they were 9-9 going into that game. Again, they had a 151 net. Pretty brutal loss for Western Carolina. And it's really a shame because we're only going to see one team come out of this conference now. And again, Samford is an elite mid major, and Western Carolina is a very good mid major. Like, I would love to see Montarius Woolbright play in the NCAA tournament. Like, people do not talk about this guy, but I'm calling it right now. There will be an NBA team that signs him as an undrafted free agent, and he will dominate in the G League, and he will win a spot as a bench player on an NBA team. He's that good. He's he's a little bit undersized. He reminds me a lot of Terry Taylor, for those of you that remember Terry Taylor from Austin Peay. He went on to play on the Pacers during one of the Pacers' kind of more down seasons, and now he's a bench piece on Chicago Bulls. So, like, there is places for players like that. I think that Woolbright will be there in the NBA. So that being said, it really just stinks to say that we're only going to see Samford or Western Carolina. But again, you have to be so perfect. After the Furman loss and the Samford loss, Western Carolina fell down to 106 in the net ranking, and that's just going to be the nail in the coffin for the Southern Conference, unfortunately.